Jason never minded the rain. In fact, he preferred it. Rain gave him permission to disappear, a shield of sound, a veil of grey that quieted the world. On most days, he walked the path along the cliffs with only the sea and the gulls for company. Today, though, the rain wasn't gentle. It came with force, whipped sideways by a sudden squall, and his thin jacket had long since given up the fight. He pulled his hood tighter and turned off the path, boots squelching on the gravel track that led to the café tucked near the headland. It was a small place, with mismatched chairs and steamed-up windows. He had passed it dozens of times, but never gone in. Today, he had no choice. A bell tinkled as he pushed through the door, the warmth inside instantly fogging his glasses. He blinked them clear and gave a small nod to the barista, who returned it without comment. A few people sat scattered at tables, murmuring over drinks or staring at their phones. Jason picked a corner seat by the window, unzipping his wet coat and letting it hang on the chair beside him. He ordered tea. Just tea. Strong. No sugar. The cup came quickly. He wrapped his hands around it, watching the glass pane cloud with condensation as the storm beat against it from outside. He was almost relaxed. Almost, when the door burst open again. Wind swirled in. A woman stumbled through, laughing as she fought to close the door behind her. Her coat was soaked, her hair stuck to her face, and her eyes were alive with something Jason didn't immediately recognize. Wonder. She approached the counter, still talking to herself. This is exactly the kind of place they'd use in a time loop scenario. Secluded, quaint, slightly damp, perfect for emotional resets. Jason instinctively looked down, hoping she wouldn't notice him. Of course she noticed him. She took her cup, a hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, he noted with silent judgment, and wandered toward the windows. Mind if I sit? Everywhere else is taken, she said, though several tables were clearly free. Jason hesitated, then nodded once. She sat, shrugged off her coat, and smiled at him like they were old friends. I'm Chloe, she said, offering a hand he didn't take. She didn't seem bothered. She pulled out a small notebook and began scribbling with a purple pen. Sorry. I talk a lot. Storms make me energetic. Jason nodded slowly, unsure whether to sip his tea or stand up and leave. Something about her, her voice, her presence, felt unpredictable. And yet, not dangerous, just different. You ever think about what kind of cafe would survive a meteor strike? She asked suddenly. Jason blinked. What? Cafes. End of the world. I always imagine some corner cafe still operating after a gamma ray burst. Serving tea and toasted sandwiches to roaches and cyborgs. He surprised himself by snorting, quietly, a laugh. Chloe lit up. Aha, I saw that, you smiled. I like science fiction, Jason muttered. Of course you do. You're sitting by a stormy window with tea. That's classic brooding protagonist behavior. He raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, you prefer hard sci-fi, realism, rules, no magic disguised as science. Mostly, he admitted, though I don't mind some mystery. Perfect. Let's make a story then, right now, while we wait out the storm. A story? Sci-fi, obviously. You start, one sentence, then I go. We trade. Jason hesitated, but her eyes were so full of hope, like a child asking someone to play. He nodded once. Okay, he said. He glanced out the window. Rain streamed down the glass. A man walks into a cafe at the edge of the world, carrying a broken device he claims can talk to stars. Chloe clapped softly. Love it. Okay, my turn. The barista isn't human. She's part memory core, part plant. Keeps the lights alive by photosynthesis and ancient jazz. Jason raised an eyebrow, smiling despite himself. They went back and forth, building a bizarre, beautiful tale of a cafe suspended in time, where lost travelers told their secrets and the walls whispered in Morse code. Jason forgot to sip his tea, forgot to check the clock. He was somewhere else now, somewhere far beyond Cornwall, beyond the rain, and he wasn't alone. The power flickered once, then steadied. The rain hammered louder against the glass. Chloe leaned in. Okay, new rule, she said. Every new character in our story has to reflect something about us. Jason hesitated. That's not how I usually write. Perfect. That's why it's fun. He took a breath. Then the man, let's call him Janus, he's running, from something he can't quite explain. Chloe nodded, eyes gentle now. The device he carries doesn't work. Or rather, it only works when he's honest. But he doesn't know how to be. Not yet. Jason looked at her. Are we still making this up? Aren't we always? They both smiled. Jason opened up more as the storm howled outside. He told her about growing up feeling like an observer in his own life, about school being a blur of noise and missed cues, about walking, to think, to escape, to breathe. Chloe listened. She didn't interrupt or pity him, just nodded, eyes bright. "You ever feel like you were made wrong?" he asked quietly. Chloe leaned back, staring into her now cold hot chocolate. "Not wrong," she said. "Just made for something people don't understand yet." Jason looked at her then. Really looked. Something flickered at the edge of his mind. But the moment passed. Outside, the storm began to ease. Morning light began to press faintly through the storm clouds. The cafe was still quiet, still warm. Jason and Chloe sat close now, the world they'd created still alive between them. "So," Chloe said softly, "in our story, what happens when the storm ends? Does Janice leave? Does the cafe vanish?" Jason looked out the window. "I think he walks out different. Not fixed, but maybe less afraid." Chloe smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I like that." They sat in silence for a while. The rain slowed to a drizzle. "Thank you for today," she said. "I don't usually get to have conversations like this." Jason opened his mouth to respond, but she stood, pulled on her coat. No hug, no awkward goodbyes, just a smile that lingered. "You're better at stories than you think," she said. Then she walked out into the quiet morning. Jason watched her walk away, her boots splashing gently in shallow puddles. Then she stumbled, a sudden twitch. Her head jerked slightly, her gait stuttered. Jason frowned. Had she slipped? But before he could move, a plain white van turned the corner and stopped beside her. Two men stepped out, calm and efficient. They helped her gently into the back. One of them glanced around, then closed the doors. As the van pulled away, voices murmured inside. Emotional depth exceeded target levels. "She'll need a calibration tweak." Some expressions were a little too poetic. Still, promising results for prototype 1. The van disappeared into the mist. Jason sat at the window for a while longer. He finished his tea, let the silence settle. Then he rose, slipped on his coat, and stepped outside. The sky had cleared, the sea shimmered. He walked the path home slowly, thoughts drifting. He wasn't sure what had just happened, but for the first time in a long while, he felt like something new had begun. And that, maybe, he wasn't so alone after all.